Heroes, at least what I can assume will be its first run, has ran it to its conclusion and the story has wrapped up. Now, this review will be, I think, more about the series as a total, the impressions it gave off, and all around if I'm satisfied with this big crossover, rather than the chapter itself, because for the most part, this chapter was just character interactions. Like, you know, we already saw, okay, they defeated Genesis, you know, in the previous chapter. You know, they end up saving the world, and now Mashimir can go back to doing God stuff. And that's, again, that's like mostly it for it. And then, you know, there's a whole bit at the very end where when he sends everyone back to their respective universes that are not all sent back correctly. Like, all the comedic characters are sent to the wrong universes. You get like Ichiya in Rave Master, the Jigglebutt Gang in Eden Zero, and Moskoy in Fairy Tail. Like, besides that, like, the characters all seem relatively well off. Everything seems to otherwise be back to in their own positions and whatnot. But like I said, I want to talk more about overall, like, how all this went, because this was something I was really excited for. I'd been calling it for a while, long since this channel actually really was doing a whole lot. You know, and I was still pretty small. You know, I did all my Mishima-verse videos on the, you know, what was it, like early summer of last year of 2018, and just, we got the Heroes announcement, and I was happy that I was able to get get some pieces that Mishima put out to understand where he was going with this, and yet where he could be going with it more in the future, given off some of the things in this story that were hinted at and, you know, breadcrumbed around. So anyway, as it were, the story itself I thought was fun. I really like the idea of, you know, this God character of Mishima, because when you have a character who's literally not, it's not like a god, it's not like, oh, you know, a god of an element, god of, you know, war, god of whatever it is, and you know, it's like, okay, cool, you can either use one much more of a, you know, a sense of any mythos, or like a religious character. Like war, you could use like Ares or something, or you can make your own from scratch. But when it comes to like, oh, it's supposed to be like a god of those universes, like the creator, you know, the one that forged each of these. Personally, I think unless you're gonna go straight like weird conceptual god kind of like character, then, you know, just use, you know, make something as an aspect of the writer, because that's the most logical thing to me, I think, because, you know, as the writer, they're the ones really creating it. I know, like, some authors that have done that. I know off the top of my head, I think what Jack Kirby did the one above all for Marvel. I know him, but you know, I like that Mishima did that with Mashimir in Heroes. And, you know, it seems to like overarch into his other series. They're all made by this creator. Everything in, you know, aspect of them are his creations. But what about the crossover itself? Because we did get fun stuff like, oh, hint that we're gonna see more, because, you know, there's like, oh yeah, well, Aki and Fuyu exist, but that's something for a later date. But Happy said, well, it's in chapter 4 or 5. I had to go back and look, but you remember the panel, he broke the fourth wall and talked to us as the readers, when the main characters were all just kind of introduced in their names, and you had 2 different seasons, and then Shiki, whose name means 4 seasons. And then when, you know, Mashimir was talking about everything that led up to this, he said he wrote all these other stories, and though here Mishima's only really had, you know, he's had Rave Master, he's had Fairy Tail and Eden Zero, and for the most part, that's his series. He has had some small series, you know, he had like Monster Hunter Storm, but I'm still not 100% sure if he'd be able to use that in a lot of this, because it was made for Capcom, so I think it's under them, and he doesn't have legal rights to it. I'm still guessing that's why he used that name again for Shiki. But I know Monster Soul, even though 2 volumes, still has some, you know, some content in there that he could use if he felt like it for more, and put the character in Heroes, or if you ever wanted to expand more of Monster Soul in its own story. But that whole aspect there, I think, is really cool, because then you could have, oh, well, these one-shots, you know, this never got serialized, but I can flesh out what I had kind of as a plan in this. And maybe if the characters get popular, you end up like expanding outwards. Like again, like Monster Soul is a short story he did 2 volumes before Fairy Tail. It was, in some ways, it feels like prototype Fairy Tail. Some of the characters have the tendency. Well, I'd say mostly just you know, the older sister was her name, Mammy. She was kind of felt like prototype Urza. She even had a, you know, oh, at one point she had one eye and then she got her eye back. But, you know, she felt a lot of times like prototype Urza. Aki, he had somewhat Natsu traits, but not entirely. He felt more of, you know, kind of like this little kid that got bullied all the time, you know, finally able to stand up for himself and stand up for his friends. I don't think for him there was a whole lot otherwise comparable between him and Natsu, other than, you know, the normal friendship stuff, and they like to be a little bit pranksters. But you could have like someone like him in Heroes, and it's like, oh, well, he's a popular character, people like him. Oh, well, I can do, you know, Monster Soul, you know, the manga continuation, and he doesn't even have to straight do it. He can just have another mangaka do it. And plus, I think it'd be a really good idea, because not only would it be like, cool, you can have, you know, this idea that you had done, maybe it's not on your priority list, but you just want to see it get created, but you can also have a different author, you know, work on aspects of it while it being tied to your name, so they get some form of just kind of cred going with it, because obviously Hiromishima's going to have a lot of, you know, just general attraction by a lot of his fans to anything that has his name on it. That's what happens when you become, you know, a big successful writer. You're going to have a strong fan base that are willing to, even if they don't like what you put out, like, you know, you can have someone that's like, oh, well, I really like this series, but I don't really like this one, but I'm willing to try anything that he ended up putting out because, you know, I'm willing to trust his work to a degree. But from that, it holds potential for, you know, the series and how they could spawn further out from this, but also how they could connect into this. And the character interactions and Genesis. Genesis, as a villain, I thought he was interesting. I liked the whole aspect of him, you know, looking like that conjoining character that exists between Hiromishima's universes. And I'm wondering if there's going to be any further kind of like exploration into that. Like if there is a continuation, like more than just this for Heroes. Like if there's Heroes 2 or like something else that continues in the same kind of timeline but under a different title. If there's going to be an explanation as to why Shinra picked, you know, that character. Because he doesn't say Jalal when he does it. He just says him and then he becomes him. But he's got, you know, he's got, I think, closer to the Jalal appearance. Like Sieg has much longer hair. And obviously Justice, when he's not using his ether gear, his hair is white. But also obviously his ether gear looks different than the tattoo marks of the other guys. Slightly in design. But like I thought he had a pretty fun performance. He was powerful. He had a cool outfit. You know, he had some pretty just standard villain speeches, and really like that. That's all I really expected. I just figured he'd be a straightforward, cool villain that might, you know, lay some breadcrumbs for expansion in the future. I mean, because this was only a 10 chapter, and at one point I thought it was going to be 11, but it's only 10 chapter series. I didn't expect the villain to get really built up like as some behemoth kind of character, something that's like, well, if this was like 50, 60 chapters, like at least an arc's length, then I could be like, oh, well, yeah, then at that point I'd expect the villain to be, you know, much more likable, understandable, or just kind of like laid out in a more interesting way. But no, you know, he got established a couple chapters in and then did his villain stuff and then was defeated. I mean, we didn't need him to be some crazed out villain, some like 10 out of 10 writing masterpiece. And the reason that is because this is a crossover, and what have I said about crossovers? The most important thing, at least to me, are the interactions. And that's where I wanted to kind of lead up to as the most important thing that I wanted to talk about, because I guess I've said in my reviews of Heroes before, the interactions I think are the most important part of a crossover. And I think it's the thing that most people want to see, because you can get action fights in the series respectively. You can get, oh, well, you know, you're not going to get the characters all teamed up against one bad guy. I mean, yeah, but what you're here for isn't just like, oh yeah, they fight a bad guy, they throw powers and attacks around, and they save the day. No, you're here because these characters are face to face with each other. You're not going to see that otherwise. And you didn't get all of them face to face, but for the most part, you know, you got all the primary ones. You know, you got all the main characters and how they finally would interact, meeting each other. You get all the girl character, like the female leads, you know, the heroines. it was nice that they got along. They didn't seem to have a lot of squabbling going on. You know, you had the tougher girls like Urza, Homura, and Julia all kind of get along. The mascots, the comic relief characters, the cooler rival guys, like everything. I think went as much as I would have liked it to go, and we got some interactions, like I said, in the Fairy Tail Rave Master crossover, but for the most part, that crossover was just Natsu and Haru, and then Lucy and Ellie. We didn't get nearly as many interactions. I know they added stuff in the anime, but the anime, I mean, the crossover itself for the first one isn't really canon. It's its own one chapter kind of one-off. So you can kind of look at the anime the same way, but at the same time, it's still not a lot. This one, you know, we obviously got it throughout the entirety of the crossover. We got all these nice little interactions, and you got like characters seeing like, oh, you know, wonder what Pino is, thinking she's like some form of rabbit. Her going along with it, just big, nice little cute droid that she is, little cutie robot. You know, just fun, and I like that aspect about it. The also the note of seeing Haru and Ellie, like, you know, their hug after the characters meet up, and like just Lucy and Rebecca, like a little embarrassed because Ellie and Haru are, you know, they're a couple, and it's kind of hard to gauge where this, like for Rave Master, where this would really fit into the timeline. Because like Haru doesn't, I know a lot of people are gonna, you know, that are gonna try and argue aspects about it, but like you gotta look at it, it can't be a normal timeline. It's gotta be its own weird heroes like brand. Heroes are unique versions of each of them, because Haru doesn't have his end of series outfit. He somehow has Eyes and Meteor. All his swords are upgraded, but he somehow still has Revolt. But him and Ellie, obviously at the end of Rave Master, did get married, so it is, you know, it's just easier to assume that they are a couple versus like Natsu and Lucy, who we can guess, you know, by the end of the run, you know, one day they will be, you know, married. But as it is right now, it's not official. So though they are close, it hasn't met that final point yet. And for real though, like Natsu goes and like pats her on the head. She's got some like fuck me eyes going on. I just noticed, like, geez. Anyway, and just like Shiki going up and jumping on Rebecca's back, just some nice fun stuff between them, and the characters all just having a nice, you know, fast-paced couple last pages back and forth between all of them, and just having a fun time with each other before being returned all to their own universes. So I'm wondering again at this point what Mishima's plan is to do, like, beyond this, because there's an easy way that he could do this again. He could have, you know, it's like, well, you know, once a year I'm gonna do this, or maybe, you know, just maybe at any sporadic point, like maybe at like right now, his plan is gonna be, once a month I'm gonna just draw one Heroes chapter, but he's not gonna release it. Imagine he's not gonna release it. He just has it drawn, prepped up, and ready. And then by the end of next year, it's going to be the same thing where it's like, hey, another volume of Heroes, and then, you know, you get each of those stockpiled months that he's been getting this ready, and then just drops them out, and, you know, we get this fun thing. And I guess I think it'd be like a really interesting like yearly thing, while at the same time, just being an all-around joy of seeing all these characters come together, and especially if it's in a continued storyline, like it's not a reset every time, because that was the thing that was like, oh, well, I hope that the Rave Master Fairy Tail crossover was canon to this, because it's like, well, then we don't have to have Natsu and Haru meeting again, and we can just get that out of the way. But it wasn't a big deal. Whereas this is 10 chapters of content and story that I'm hoping that if there's more to this, that this, you know, gets continued on, doesn't go to waste. And then that'd be fun to see other characters end up joining up as well. Like I said, like Aki. Aki, if you've never read Monster Soul, it's only 2 volumes. Hiroshima did it. You can go check it out. It's pretty fun. The main character is he's a goofy little guy, and you know it's an enjoyable series. It's one of those ones that you can read like only the 2 volumes, and it's like it wasn't like, oh, it's phenomenal, but it does read off as one of those ones that's like, there's potential here that you could do more. It's definitely one of those series that's built to be like a weekly shonen battle stuff, and then it's got its own plot setup and all these things, and a lot of it's going to evolve and kind of like I get more ideas along the way to see how far it can get crafted out as. But other than that, my music stopped. I wonder if that even stopped at some point. But other than that, like I said, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to being able to buy the volume. I thought it was a really good idea, because not only is it a fun aspect of like, well, if maybe you've only read one of these 3 series and you want to, you just want to read it because, oh, well, I've read Rave Master, but I haven't read Fairy Tail or Eden Zero. And, you read it and it's like, oh, I kind of like those other guys. Maybe I'll try one of those other series. Or of any of them. Maybe you've read Fairy Tail, but you haven't read Eden Zero or Rave Master. Maybe you've read Eden Zero and you haven't read Fairy Tail or Rave Master. I don't know if I messed that up right there, but either way, it could give you a chance to maybe see if you like the other ones. Or, like me, if you've read all 3, then it was just so much fun to see these characters finally just, all be around each other and see what kind of shenanigans they get into. And, like I said, I was very satisfied with this whole, like, this big chaotic, like, scramble of mayhem. So, looking forward to possibly more. Like I said, if there's more, it doesn't have to be like every character like add on to this, but if there is more, please bring in Aki. I'd like to see him in this, and then Fuyu would be kind of hard because like that series, like the series he's from, was a one shot. But again, I'm sure Mishima could think of a lot, like, and get things prepped up and ready. I'm sure he had ideas, like if in case that series got serialized, or he can just make it up on the spot. It's like, well, it's a one shot, so I got pretty much full creative work on this one. Anyway, well, I mean, he's got full creative work anyway. He's the author and creator, regardless of which. Yeah, so comment below, tell me your thoughts are about this chapter, and really, like, Heroes as a crossover event in general. Tell me how much, tell me if you enjoyed it or not, if you didn't, why, and if you did, like, which interaction was your favorite? I really liked this, like, the interactions, I think, between the mascots. I thought that was pretty fun. Like, especially the comedic characters, I thought were great, just because they were 3 sets of goofy characters that I already found funny, and I was really looking forward to seeing like what kind of like odd, like, goofball, like, magnetism is gonna happen out of all of these guys ganging up. And that was one of last minute note, one of the things in the chapter that was amusing to me, but I didn't know, is when they were all parting ways, that Ichiya and Moskoe were sad that they were getting separated. Anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but friend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. And that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.